Hey guys, welcome to the monthly old classic episode of Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
And as the year is winding to a close here, we thought we would pay tribute to many of the fallen people of the actor and actress nature in 2016. We lost a lot of people, and so we each picked one person and then let you guys, the listeners, pick actually one of the same people we already picked, but it's Alan Rickman, so you can't go wrong with that.
Not really.
So Joe's pick was Galaxy Quest, featuring Mr. Rickman. For Justin, it was Blazing Saddles, chosen from a wide selection of Wilder films, no pun intended, but one of the true greats. I chose Batman, which is a little bit off the beaten path because my dead person isn't really in the movie, but it is Prince, and then Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves from the listeners. But before we start the show, just some of the people that we threw up on the poll. You had Gary Shandling, David Bowie, Gene Wilder again.
Yeah.
Who else? Patty Duke,
Yep.
Miracle Worker.
Absolutely.
And of course, all of her TV work. Anton Yelchin, who we lost this year from the Star Trek films.
Too young.
Far too soon.
Yeah, way too young.
Way too young.
And, there were many others. Doris Roberts, of course, most known for Everybody Loves Raymond, but also did a lot of movies in the 70s through the 90s. George Kennedy, who's the sidekick in the Naked Gun films. So yeah, just a very, very hard year.
Yeah.
As far as actors and actresses, and just recently two TV greats, Florence Henderson, Alan Thicke. Very, very sad. But in paying tribute, let's talk about their great work. Galaxy Quest is up first with Joe honoring Alan Rickman.
Yes. Now, of course, we have to talk about Galaxy Quest because I have to work Star Trek in everything. But
and it's one you've been talking about for years.
No, I have wanted to get this one on the show, so I'm glad we're talking about it, even though it is with the passing of the great Alan Rickman. But basically what this is it takes place in a world similar to our own, which is essentially there was this famous Star Trek-esque sci-fi show, Galaxy Quest. And it follows some of these great people. You've got Tim Allen, was the captain who played Commander Taggart, who is obviously modeled after Kirk/Shatner, both, I think, on and off screen. And you've got other greats in there as well. Alan Rickman plays the Spock/Worf character, Dr. Lazarus. And you've got Sigourney Weaver in there, of course, Queen of Sci-Fi. You've got Monk.
Yeah, Shalhoub.
You've got Tony Shalhoub. You've got the great
Rockwell.
Oh, Sam Rockwell plays crewman number 6.
Yep.
And many other people.
Literally named Guy,
to emphasize that point. And
Justin Long, playing the Uber fan.
In his first experience. So you've got a lot of great people, a great cast of comedic and dramatic actors. And it kind of opens up in a big Star Trek-esque convention. And it turns out that there's some issues, as there might be, with some of the TOS cast in terms of some feelings about Tim Allen's character. And kind of right when he's starting to feel some existential dread about kind of being a washed-up actor, he gets a calling from some actual aliens who have mistaken the TV show as being actual historical records, and that he and his friends are actually space heroes who saved the world and want to ask their help to save them from an actual evil alien warlord who wants to destroy their race, and that kind of gets things going. Now, I think it speaks to how beloved this movie is when it does parody and satire so well, but not in a mean sense. It's done by people that obviously love this stuff and not only make fun of the strengths, but also the flaws. And this movie is not just an exploration of sci-fi or Star Trek, but of fandom. It really is. And you really get a sense of how positive and negative fandom can be and the effect it has on the actors and getting typecast. And in addition to that, though, it has a fun world. It has fun aliens, honestly pretty cool effects, surprisingly, for a comedy like this. A lot of really good laughs when you've got some really talented people that all really bring a lot of depth and subtlety to their characters. And Alan Rickman really is perhaps the biggest standout of all because, being the very serious English actor, he kind of parodies himself getting stuck into this silly role where he wears the plastic alien skull cap all the time. But his character arc, for instance, is really great because he really hates his character, much like Leonard Nimoy, who kind of wanted to get away from Spock and maybe even resented being typecast, but eventually grew to appreciate it, much the same way that the aliens kind of treat him with respect that fans actually do. He kind of learns how much his character really means and what the stories mean to people and how much good they really can do, and even it is an inspirational way, in this case literal. So, I mean, it's a really great movie. It's one of my favorite movies So I obviously like it, but I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say about it.
What's your grade?
My grade? It's an A+.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, Justin.
I haven't seen Galaxy Quest in a very, very long time. I saw it when I was a kid. I think it was like one of the first DVDs I ever actually watched.
Oh, wow.
And I remembered liking it, but I don't remember ever being blown away by it. Now, when I first met Joe, this was referenced many a time, and I was thinking, okay, well, did I miss something? Did I just not understand Trek? And needless to say, several episodes later, boldly going, cough, cough, I certainly do have a greater appreciation for it, but I still kind of have that same opinion. And why is that? To start, Galaxy Quest is pretty much one gigantic love letter to fandom, and I really do appreciate that. But the problem is, the satire is both a blessing and a curse. Yes, it has a lot of really good things in it in regards to satire, but there are other moments where it plays it ridiculously safe. Like, there's one character that is supposed to clearly be a response to the Wesley Crusher hate, and he's so monumentally underplayed he feels like one gigantic lost opportunity.
You're referring to Laredo?
Pretty much.
I think Laredo's great, but could you expand on that a little bit? I'm curious. Well, you don't think he's underused or something?
Well, like, you would think like they would address like the fact that he's pretty much that he's a Wesley.
Pedal to the metal, Commander.
Exactly.
I don't know. I think it's there.
Not really. Like if you're going to make a Wesley knockoff, make him annoying. Address the fact that he's basically a gigantic Mary Sue.
To be honest, in the context of the Galaxy Quest, he is kind of the most useless character, which is why he gets the least amount of screen time.
Yeah.
But okay.
Like even like the whole Rockwell arc,
Hey.
they actually do address the fact that he has a red shirt. They don't do it until like later in the movie, and he's just sprinkled in here and there, but it works. I think some of the other franchises aren't explored nearly as well.
Well, it's
like they're trying to sort of like split the difference. It's mostly just TOS and TNG in spurts, and that really did bother me. Fortunately, since it's only 90 minutes, it's about 45 minutes of that, and then fandom comes in to save the day, which they do the fandom part really well. The actual Trek satire is kind of like 50-50. It's enjoyable, but I don't think it works nearly as well as the people behind it really want it to.
Wow.
Now, as far as Rickman goes, fantastic job. I think the one thing I really do like about his role in this movie is he doesn't care about being the star of the show. Like, he'll have just a stray one-liner, and he'll make it hit as hard as Tim Allen's other, like, 5 that just came by. But the thing that really pulls this one down for me isn't necessarily the missed opportunities for satire. It's the fact that the one thing that they press on so heavily is, like, the campy aliens. The aliens in this movie that are, like, that believe that everything that they've seen is real are so much more over the top than anything we've seen in TOS. They're just irritating. They're not really that funny. They get one really funny joke, and it happens halfway in the movie. And then comes everything else.
I don't know if I agree with that. I thought they were pretty funny, and I don't know, I'd say they're the most over the top, but I could see them.
Oh my gosh. There is, out of all the races we've seen thus far in the original series, none of them are half as ridiculously campy as these guys are.
Interesting. I could see the voices being grating, I guess, but I think they're kind of underplayed as far as over the top aliens could be, but that's just, I mean, I could kind of see that, I guess.
But as a whole, it's a fun adventure movie, which is what I viewed it mostly as a kid as.
Yeah.
It's a kind of fun movie, but it's honestly not much more than that. I leave with a B.
Wow, that's not what I was expecting. Okay.
No, nor I. All right, well, I came pretty late to the Galaxy Quest party, actually, admittedly. Now, I had seen it before, but it was one of those...
in the background?
Well, it was one of those, like, old movies returned to Redbox.
Ah.
So I didn't see it until probably, I don't know, 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
One of those old movies where you're at the Redbox and you're like, why is Burlesque here in 2016?
What is this doing?
Because it's a great movie, apparently.
And Galaxy Quest was one of those, and I'm not sure if... maybe it was when the first Star Trek came out. Maybe it was 2009. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Because they do try to time them with things. But so I had kind of wondered, like, well, I like most of Tim Allen's movie work. The TV stuff not so much, but the movie work and his stand-up, okay. But is this going to live up to this great reputation? I had only heard positive things from literally everybody. It was before I knew Justin, so that opinion didn't come into play. My dad loves it.
Understandable.
Critically, it's very loved. Yeah, I mean, of course, my dad loves it, and I have to say it lived up to the reputation of being this great comedy. Now, I think everybody in here does a good job. I think Sigourney Weaver is hilarious. And to my memory, I think this has to be one of her first forays into broad comedy. Now we see it all the time, in Paul and Finding Dory, and, you can't throw a rock without hitting a Sigourney Weaver cameo. But back then, I think that was pretty novel that, this highly revered sci-fi / action heroine is doing this almost slapstick type comedy.
Yeah.
So she's great. Tim Allen is probably the weakest link of the main actors.
Because Tim Allen.
But when you have a Rickman and a Weaver and a Rockwell, and even a Justin Long, being the...
Wow.
Well, that's going to make Justin blow his brains out. But, even Long...
has some good lines.
He has definitely some great lines. He makes great use of this nerd character, and they wrote him fantastic lines.
It's pretty real to me.
So, yeah, I mean, I think... Here's the crowning achievement of this movie, though. It's not that it's hilarious... Which it is. It's not that it's a good satire, which it is. It is that it manages to be a satire and a parody unto itself, but is also engaging as a sci-fi movie. And I think that that's a feat that, we're going to talk about Blazing Saddles in a moment, but, Mel Brooks also has this knack of making parodies of movies that are actually also good in that genre.
Yeah.
Spaceballs kind of works as a sci-fi movie in addition to being a parody. And I think this works, in that same vein. I'm not quite as high on it as you, Joe. Maybe that's because of the Tim Allen not being as able to keep up with everybody else. But it's a strong comedy. It's an A for me.
I thought so.
Yeah. Justin, I don't know that they were specifically going for one or more of the Star Treks only. Obviously,
it's mostly TOS.
It's the easiest go-to because of the conventions.
Yeah.
But I think the themes can sort of be applied to any nerd fandom, like a SG-1, for example, or a Babylon 5, or a Who, or...
That's the point.
So for them to not give the Wesley, quote-unquote, character enough to do, I think it's enough that he's there. They throw him a couple of lines, and,
He got some funny ones.
He got some funny lines.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's strictly Trek that they're parodying. I mean... Look at Sigourney Weaver. There's no main female character in the original Star Trek.
You got her as the closest thing.
The closest, but she's like
she's a side character.
6th or 7th, down the list.
Yeah.
I would say.
No, that's true.
So, I guess that's why that sort of portion didn't really bother me.
A little more flexible.
In that same regard, yeah.
Yeah.
But I could see, as somebody who didn't grow up with Trek, watching this when it was originally out or soon after,
it wouldn't have the same impact.
Yeah, probably wouldn't mean much.
It
honestly.
Wouldn't. No, and that's definitely a factor for sure.
Absolutely, and make no mistake, I'm by no means saying this is a bad movie. I just think if you're going to go for satire, you gotta commit to it, and if you're going to throw in elements that are satirical, you can't just leave them hanging, which I think this movie spends a lot of time doing.
I think it committed pretty well to its conceits.
As do I. I never thought that was a problem. But you're right. It's pretty engaging in and of itself, which I like.
Yeah. All right. Well, I brought up Blazing Saddles, so let's move to that one in honor of the fantastic Gene Wilder. Justin, let's hear about it.
All right.
Yeah, tell me about it.
In the town of Rock Ridge, where nearly everyone's named Johnson, a big change comes in the way of Bart, played by Cleavon Little, a suburbanite, and their county's first black sheriff. While things don't start off perfect for Bart, little help comes in the form of the quick-witted Waco Kid, played by the late great Gene Wilder, which turns them both into a formidable adversary to the likes of a greedy governor trying to take over the town, played by the director Mel Brooks.
Those land barons, man.
This might be a bit of an odd pick since It's Wilder, but it's not Wilder in front and center. But one thing I love about Gene Wilder as an actor is how ridiculously versatile he was. He could be the leading man, he could be the secondary guy, and probably most importantly, the man could improv. And I think we see two out of those three elements really on display here. Certainly, Young Frankenstein is great. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, classic, of course. But here I think he does a really good job of not trying to outstage the main character, but really brings himself to life, really makes the character his own, and doesn't try to steal the show. He really plays off of the lead actors and gives us a really solid performance. I think the Western commentary is biting, and I would argue many of the things they're discussing are still very timely today, largely in terms of representation, in terms of just general genre tropes. Mm-hmm. And I think for a genre that's not really handled as frequently, it does a really good job of making it fun and lively. And then there's the ending, which people are very love it or hate it about. It's completely off the walls insane, but I think with Brooks there's an art to that, and if you take it one square at a time, it works. It doesn't work perfectly, but it works. And I think because it's already proven that it's completely insane, why not? It's a fun ride. It's easily one of my favorite of the Brooks comedies. It's a solid A for me.
Oh, solid A. And wouldn't you agree about my statement? I mean, this works not just as a comedy or as a parody, but it's kind of a good Western, too.
It's true.
When it comes down to it. And that, something Mel Brooks has. Listen, people throw the word genius around a lot. Many, oh, he's a genius, But, Gene Wilder worked in his film career with two of the biggest geniuses there are, Mel Brooks and Richard Pryor. And now I haven't seen a lot of the Richard Pryor films. Unfortunately, I saw, by all accounts, one of the weaker ones, the See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Whoops.
But, just Pryor from his stand-up, and his sitcom and everything.
Not Superman 3?
You know what? I've never seen Superman 3, to be honest.
It's okay.
Wilder is also a genius. So you have him, in just about every movie, it's two geniuses working together. And this, I can't say is my favorite. I think Young Frankenstein is probably my favorite of the Brooks-Wilder collabos. But this movie is so hysterically funny from start to finish and acts as a good Western comedy and satire, much like Young Frankenstein works as a monster movie.
Absolutely.
And I agree. Wilder's range, I mean, it's unfathomable that this guy was just, the 70s and 80s, he made so many classic movies. And I'm glad you didn't bring Willy Wonka, because
pretty much everything was said about it.
Well, I'm just sick of it. Look, it's brilliant, it's fine, but we all know it, we all love it.
Yeah.
If it was my Gene Wilder pick, I would have also done a Brooks. I think I would have done the Producers.
Okay.
They're all great. Like,
yeah, no,
you can't pick a bad. Yeah, you can't pick a bad Wilder performance, and he's just great here. And the other thing about this movie is, a lot of people always say about, it could never be made today, and though that's maybe true in the same respects, but I think there's a couple people who could probably make this movie today and get away with it. Dave Chappelle is not a filmmaker, but if he wrote A Blazing Saddles, I think he could do it.
Strangely enough, I could see it.
And after some of the things we've seen lately in, say, Sausage Party, I think a Rogue and Apatow collabo could also get away with it.
Yeah, maybe.
Were there a very prominent African American actor consulting or involved?
Yeah, definitely. Key and Peele.
Actually, that's probably true too. Maybe. I mean, I don't think they're to that level, certainly, film wise yet, but they do get a lot of leeway for the things that they put out there.
Absolutely.
So, this is obviously a classic. It's an A.
Yeah.
Joe?
Oh, well, once again, not too much more to add. I'm glad you brought this one, Justin. I actually think One of the things, actually, you made me realize something. I think that Tarantino might have had some influences from Blazing Saddles and Django. Honestly, I could see some of that.
See it?
Yeah. I could see some of that for sure. And no, I mean, I think the thing that I like about this movie is just how well it flows. Like, really, you're thinking that the satire is just going to constantly be distracting, and it is fun. And most of the jokes are really funny, and they're biting in terms of their commentary. But as a story, you're actually pretty engaged in what's going to go on.
Exactly.
I'm like, honestly.
Exactly.
And considering I'm not the most hardcore Western fan, I think that's a plus. You know, to get you kind of interested in the genre more. And I like the way it's presented. I like the way it's shot. I like the production design as well. Like I said, I think that I want to say it's a meager set. Like, I know there's some blue screen there, obviously, but it looks pretty good, too. It's a well-presented film.
Yeah, the art decoration on the film is really good.
Costumes, like, it looks really good, and I was impressed by that. And, I mean, Wilder, you know, as you guys said, he was just great. And he's versatile, but the thing I like is, like a lot of actors that are versatile, they always have that one consistent element. And Wilder, you know, does bring that craziness, that
he
quirkiness.
Freaks out.
He flips out. He has the Wilder flip out, and those are the best. Those are the best parts. Even Willy Wonka, he couldn't resist. He has to flip out a little. He has to scare people. But no, I think it's enjoyable. I do think that it is certainly etched in its time a little bit, and I could see that it might have been more daring at the time, which was good. But yeah, made now, a little bit, but I don't know if it would be quite as intense, because
it would have different things to be making fun of.
I could see some things maybe being a bit jarring, like, okay, we get it. So maybe bordering on offensive, but then again, that's the point. So it's just the only thing that might be a little harder to determine. But I think for what it is, it mostly really works. It's really fun, and I love the presentation and the flow of the narrative for sure.
Yeah,
and Wilder's great. So I mean, I'm with you guys. It's an A for me. It's classic.
It really is. Well, and the other thing is, speaking to that, Joe, of the, you know, for its time. I mean, comedy even in the 80s a little bit, but really in the 90s and the 2000s went so far into the make you uncomfortable territory with, you know, like Road Trip and Andrew Dice Clay and Freddie Got Fingered and all that kind of stuff.
Pushing it too far, maybe.
It's like
it's uncomfortable. Sort
of nothing shocking, you know. Yeah. And so that's in part why this movie is so brilliant, is because this came out of, it's kind of like Psycho, you know, with Hitchcock, which we dealt with last month for the horror month. It's like, yeah, viewed now, Psycho's like, okay, you know, it's okay. It's more, I think, aesthetically pleasing as a, you know, film classic. A benchmark. And, you know, the same could be said for Blazing Saddles, but also the jokes still really hold up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I think that's something that is very important to remember.
And puns. Gotta have your puns.
Brooks loved them.
Gotta have those.
And that's very true. All right, so up next, we have, I think, probably an odd choice for me.
It's really weird, yeah.
But
it's a Joe Manduke pick.
You know, look, I wanted to honor Prince, who, for me in 2016, was the biggest, you know, punch to the gut loss. Mm-hmm. And we've already done Purple Rain on the show. And in all fairness, his other movies are crap. So how do I bring Prince to the table? You do it through Batman, of which his iconic #1 soundtrack is kind of almost synonymous. I mean,
Party Man.
You know, Party Man. You know, #1 single, Bat Dance, Arms of Orion. I mean, the guy had never done, other than his own movies, he'd never done another soundtrack, so it was sort of a landmark it was a coup for Warner Brothers to convince him to do this. So anyway, in this movie, this is obviously the 1989 version I'm talking about. It's the Caped Crusaders' first blockbuster foray into the big screen. They, of course, had the Adam West movie, but blockbuster is not a term that could be really used for that.
Nope, not quite, no.
You know, Tim Burton here directs Michael Keaton as Batman in the origin story that we all know very well, you know, as Bruce Wayne becomes the crime fighter. Jack Nicholson here plays the Joker, and Kim Basinger plays Vicky Vale, the photojournalist that both men are after. So Joe will I'm sure go into the most detail about this movie.
Maybe.
And he already brought us one from this series, which was Batman Returns.
Out of order.
Although we did watch this version first, we just didn't discuss it on the show.
Yeah.
And I had never seen it, you know, up to that point.
Which was ridiculous to me.
It kind of was, right?
I was like, I couldn't deal with it. Just couldn't deal with it. Couldn't.
So, to me, for my money, I think Keaton is the best Batman to ever grace the screen, big or small. Obviously, that can be argued. For me, Keaton is the tops. Nicholson is clearly a great addition. Basinger is all right as Vicky Vale. She brings the movie down. The screaming is too much.
What?
Every scene with the screaming.
Yeah, it's a little on the much side.
I think her better film work, came in the 90s and with 8 Mile. The movie is campy in some aspects, much like, obviously, the 60s TV show, but it's clearly much darker than we had ever seen from the character, really outside of the comics.
Yeah.
Obviously, when he started in the, 40s, right? Or maybe even 30s. Very, very dark stuff.
Yeah.
And then the TV show kind of turned it on its ear and had fun with it for the children. But this really returned it to its dark roots, and I love that Tim Burton did that. The Oscar-winning art design is just perfect here. And I would say from an apples-to-apples comparison, Batman Returns probably holds up better as a film. But, I mean, this is just a great contribution to the superhero film genre. And if we're talking about landmarks, with Blazing Saddles being a comedy landmark, I think this is really a landmark in the superhero film genre.
Can't be argued.
So the movie gets an A from me. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, no, you hit all the high points for sure. I think I have to agree with you. I mean, I guess just because of my experiences with a lot of the animated stuff, I think Kevin Conroy is always going to be Batman to me.
Okay, and that's fine.
But
of the ones you showed me, yes, he's definitely up there.
He's up there. I mean,
for sure.
Hard to deny.
Hard to deny.
But in all honesty, though, when it comes to live action, I mean, first of all, this was the first Batman I ever saw. Mm. So for me, though, in all honesty, when it comes to capturing the dark persona of Batman, Michael Keaton's number one. At least on screen. That's my opinion. Once again, could be argued. People have different opinions. Though I don't think anyone would say George Clooney unless they are they're trying to make you angry.
The one I haven't seen.
They're trolling. But I've met one or two, and somebody said Val Kilmer today, actually. Not lying.
All right.
But whatever. Anyway, back to this movie. See, I could go off on a tirade.
Yeah, true.
No, I'm glad. I think this is definitely... Now, Batman Returns, I will confess, has always been the one I liked a little more. Whether you can argue whether or not it's better or worse, it's also debatable, but I've always preferred it a little bit more because I think it goes a little bit further into Batman's character, actually, in addition to the villains. But here, it's a good origin story, but it's not presented like an origin story, which is rare.
Yeah.
It seems like Batman's already established. The mood's good, gothic, edgy, but a little comic booky, a little fun and campy at times. I think a lot of people say that Jack Nicholson kind of steals the show, and, maybe that's tough to do because back at the time, Jack Nicholson was huge. But he owns the Joker. He's one of the best Jokers for sure. Once again, Hamill is up there for me, and Heath Ledger too. But, I guess the only real major negative for me is Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. And I don't really like to say that because it's not a big negative for me. I mean, she's the pretty damsel in distress. She's not a terrible character. And she does have good pipes, for the screaming.
Yes.
And she's pretty and everything. But it's not her best role. And she does. There are some cringe-worthy lines here and there. But on the whole, though, the movie's fun. Goes much darker, bringing Batman back into popular culture, but bringing him back to his roots and kind of keeping him there for the most part. Adam West is a different thing, its own respectable thing, but this is generally the way Batman's presented, and for that alone, I mean, it can't be disputed. I think it's a near perfect movie. I'm with you, Dan. It's an A.
All right, Justin?
All right, so I'm going to try to throw in anything that you gentlemen have not thrown in yet.
Please do.
Well, this was the beginning of a once promising franchise before a gentleman by the name of Schumacher came and ruined everything.
Ooh.
Still too soon. But
still is. Still being felt to this day. Hey, he did apologize.
And did he mean it? Who knows? But I digress.
He seemed pretty mad.
But alas, not responsible for this one.
No.
Good thing, though.
Yes. Ooh.
So this was definitely a brave decision to sort of break the rules, go a little bit in a different direction than where the comics established the character. And honestly, if there was anyone up to that task, it would probably be 80s Tim Burton, who was still experimenting, still finding his niche, still trying to figure out what all works.
So you'd say it's a good way for him to cut his teeth a little bit.
For a lack of a better word, yeah.
He was the right director at the exact right time.
Agreed.
And I don't want to cut you off, Justin,
No,
but
go on.
I think you might agree with this. I think one of the cool things about this one is, unlike where Batman Returns, they gave him full range to be Tim Burton, he kind of has to rein in a little bit here. A little bit.
Yeah,
Just a
not
little
as
bit.
established as when Batman Returns
Yeah,
came
where it's
out.
like you look
Yeah.
at this and like, well, this is Burton.
But not in the Planet of the Apes 2001
No.
version where he's just completely and utterly compromised.
Before he had total control.
when he was still allowed to have a little artistic integrity.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the story works. The story works well. Damsel in distress. I mean, it's what it was.
Standard, yeah.
Yeah, you can probably make a drinking game out of every time she screams.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
and we did. But I think that works largely because just about everyone's on board. Keaton does a good job. I think, even though I think at times he's a little too introverted, particularly when they have to play up the whole like love interest game, the chemistry isn't quite there.
Mm-hmm.
And while most of the camp works, I kind of have mixed feelings about the way Prince is introduced into it.
Well, we have to talk about that. It's like, because, no, I see what he's saying. Let me, hold on, just, it's kind of like dark, moody, kind of timeless, and then cut to
Crazy dance
party
sequence.
time.
That's right.
Oh, we know when this movie's from.
That's right.
So you don't think that's a fault of the...
Heaven is where it's from.
No,
Oh, you're not wrong, Dan.
it is good.
Too soon, Justin.
Too soon. Prince is mad.
I mean, the songs are good. They're just awkwardly placed.
I mean, I think fitting with the Joker and his antics makes more sense than randomly having it all in Batman's cave or something.
True.
You know, so it's not the worst timing.
Batman comes
Just
out
jamming like...
and he kicks on the stereo.
before
What does Bruce Wayne chill at when he's not fighting crime? He's a
Yeah.
Prince fan. Hey,
Yeah, he likes Purple Rain.
Hey, everybody is. I mean,
I remember in Batman Returns, Alfred did have the rockin' DJ set, so we
That's
know
true.
we know what they're into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
But I gotta say, even though it's dark and has its own tone, that does work. I think Batman Returns took it a step further, and
Too far?
no, actually, I think
Think the kids were think the parents were complaining a little too much?
no, I think it was the right tone, and obviously it's Batman, so most people you know what you're getting into, unless you're watching the '60s version, which is an entirely different monster.
True.
But I think it's a good movie. I think it's an incredible piece of superhero cinema. I'm with you, gentlemen. It's an A.
but I think that's the thing, though. You know, oh, it's Batman. You know what you're getting into.
At the
In
time.
1989, no, they did not. Because the only things on film really were the TV show and that
Super
campy
Friends.
movie. And Super Friends, because it was before animated series. It was before,
It was.
obviously, Christopher Nolan existed as a director.
Of course, yeah.
Unless you were a
So-
hardcore Batman fan, you
Yeah,
wouldn't
I mean,
know.
unless you really read the comics dating back to the World War II era,
I mean,
I don't think people did know.
To be fair, I guess if you were like a comic book reader at the time, by the time the 780s came around, it was getting darker again.
I mean,
anyway,
Yeah.
What was the story that Tim Burton wanted to adapt, Joe?
didn't he want to do Dark Knight Returns? Actually,
He did.
which was right around
Which
this
would
time.
have probably killed this entire franchise, but
Yeah, it would have been too much, too inside. But yeah, it was getting darker. So but you're right, to the general public.
But I mean, this was the #1 movie of the summer. This was a huge blockbuster. I would say, what do you think? 80% didn't read the comic books?
that's
Sounds-
probably fair. I'd
You
go
know?
with 90.
Yeah, maybe 85, 90.
that sounds accurate.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think people did know what they were getting with this movie.
I know
mean,
people
maybe
were,
the PG-13 tipped them off, but it's hard to say.
this dark,
It is.
this violent,
know?
probably not. Honestly.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to see it when it was in theaters. I saw the weekend this came out. I saw Honey, I Shrunk the Kids,
Good choice.
I was going to say,
which was a good choice.
Good choice.
it's not Batman, but it's a good
But,
choice.
yeah, I mean, no, it doesn't compare as an adult to Batman. But you know, as a
Kid.
11-year-old kid whose
Pretty
mom
worse.
was,
Hey,
whose
effects
mom
are
was a
great.
little cautious, you know.
Effects were great.
Yeah, the effects were great in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Is that what you're saying?
Both.
I was going to
Yes,
say both.
true.
Both applicable.
Both held up pretty well.
All right, so finally we take it back to Alan Rickman. And I do have to say, I was surprised that David Bowie and Labyrinth
Yeah.
did not win the poll. But,
Weird.
you know, you guys voted, and I think, Joe, it was you that suggested for Rickman we do Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yeah.
So that was what won, and let's hear about it.
You know, it's interesting. When you said you put David Bowie in there, I was
I was gonna say.
we were all surprised. Like, well, I even said, well, David Bowie's going to win for Labyrinth. No, I threw this one off the cuff only because I knew that some people liked it as kind of a cult classic.
And we didn't want to do Harry Potter, Done to Death, and we've already done Die Hard.
Yeah, and I was thinking of the classic villain roles, Alan Rickman's Sheriff Nottingham is noteworthy. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the most noteworthy thing about this movie in retrospect.
Just about, yeah.
Like, I remember, I feel like I've been just bringing some, I don't want to say hidden gems, but some interesting minerals back from the ground of film history from my childhood.
Yeah.
Because, man,
some work and some don't.
I'm gonna have to, like, if there's other things, I'm just gonna have to look at these again and say, should I really bring this? Because I've usually been pretty good. But anyway, no, not to say that I hate this necessarily, but I used to love this movie as a kid. This was like my primary foray into Robin Hood, besides the Disney one. Yes, because I was allowed to watch all kinds of things as a kid.
Sure.
The violent, semi-realistic version of Robin Hood. But hey, diverse interests from an early age.
Why not?
And I mean, there are definitely some things about this that do kind of work. I think that the realism to contrast the Errol Flynn version is definitely a different take. And I think that the costumes are good. I think it does feel very much like medieval England. And I think that you've got, obviously Morgan Freeman as kind of the Arabian man that helps Robin Hood come back after fighting the Crusades. That historical backdrop's interesting. And the the interworkings of meeting the Merry Men and the adventures of Robin Hood fighting the Sheriff of Nottingham while Richard and Lionheart's away. You guys know the story of Robin Hood.
True.
And this goes through the motions and does it well, does it fine.
You don't sound very confident about that.
It does it okay. Like, I can't say that there's too much about this in and of itself. The interlocking parts of the adventure are decent. There's some good action set pieces. There's some good set design. Characters are kind of interesting some of the time. I will say...
Some of the time.
They are. I'm getting to it. Alan Rickman's villain is fun because Alan Rickman is having fun with it. Mm-hmm. But he's an underdeveloped, one-dimensional villain.
I think he kind of knows that, too.
And he knows that, which is fine, but he does the best he can with it. But if it wasn't Rickman giving an A-plus performance, it might have been a forgettable character. And there are some interesting twists, but, there's a couple of negatives, though, that I just can't deny. First of all, this movie's a little long. Like, you probably could condense it in, like, half an hour, 45 minutes.
I was going to say probably in half.
You probably could cut this movie...
You really could,
because the middle part where they just...
15 would probably be plenty.
Start doing a shorter movie, like the Errol Flynn version, probably be a little better. Mm-hmm. Just kind of... Because get the basics out. You just kind of started montaging, doing the same things. Let's just rescue Maid Marian and get to it. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of ideas. They don't really explore too much. They introduce a character. They're there. That's it. So the pacing's kind of rough there. Christian Slater as the young, cool, hip, annoying character. It's not his performance, but the character is just so unlikable. And there is a little bit of a twist to him that makes it a little bit forgivable, but
they try.
He's insufferable.
They try.
Like you're like, I did not realize, like, I didn't like him as a kid, but you're like, just kill him. Mm-hmm. Just why you're not helping. Yeah. And there's just one last thing I have to say, because I didn't realize this as a kid, that it might be an issue. But you've got Robin Hood, who is this legendary English man, played by Kevin Costner. Pretty good in his time, American actor. Not even attempting an accent. Not like...
to play devil's advocate.
No.
He did try. He did try.
Well, let's put it this way.
That was trying.
Justin, if this is trying an accent, and I think he sounds exactly like Kevin Costner in most of his other movies... It's like Sean Connery, ironically enough, trying to do an accent.
No. You misunderstand. No, he did try to do an English accent while they were filming it. It was like far and away Irish accent bad.
Good way to bring it back, though. You got to bring it back to Ireland.
True. Far and away, yep.
But
good accents.
Before I'm done, I understand he tried, and he should have stuck with those lessons. I like Kevin Costner. I really do. But it's kind of distracting to watch this movie in medieval England with a guy who sounds
super American,
straight up American, while everyone else has an accent. It's like, so Robin Hood was American before America was a thing. I don't know why this didn't click as a kid, but it's. I guess the performance is okay. Besides that, but it's kind of a big deal, both directing, casting, and it's just like it's like they said, let's hire Costner because he's a big name, people see him, but people won't get past that. So, enjoyed things about it. Like, once this movie gets to the ending, it gets fun and cool, but you gotta sit to that middling middle, which is just so dull. I leave it with a C+.
Okay. Justin?
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, man.
You know, I had heard about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves thrown around quite a bit in my youth.
Oh, you never saw it either before?
I had never seen this one
I
before.
did. Okay, yeah, I didn't either.
I heard about it after Rickman died. People would post clips about all the goofy things he did in this movie.
It's true.
Warranted. But honestly, I really don't feel like I missed anything. Especially after sitting through the 2.5 hour nightmare that is this movie.
Nightmare.
For starters, this movie has no idea what it wants to be.
It's true.
I feel like it wants to be like an updated send-up from the Errol Flynn version.
Dark.
But it's so ridiculously dark. It is probably the darkest introduction of any Robin Hood film.
Yeah, that flaying murder and brutality.
I was going to say, like, there's a body count of 3
and...
less than 5 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, it's...
And it's not like, people are just, like, just shot with arrows or something. No, people die horribly in the first 5 minutes. Then you'll have other moments where it's that sort of uppity, like, 90s B-movie kind of feel. And then they'll jump right back to the darkness, and with little rhyme or reason to it. Then they try to throw in, like, deeper concepts. Maid Marian is not your typical damsel in distress. Diversity with Morgan Freeman.
Like,
one person does not solve the problem.
She's an independent woman, except she still needs to be rescued.
Yes.
You're both olive oil right there.
Yeah, you're both helping and hurting the problem at the exact same time.
And Morgan Freeman is Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman is Morgan Freeman. He definitely doesn't hurt the movie, but...
No.
But just as a whole, like, as an origin story, it's way too long. There's way too many working parts. So much could be cut out. The Merry Men, some are great, some are not so great. Friar Tuck is awesome. He shows up way too late, though, and his best scene comes,
almost the
last, 20 minutes of the movie. He has arguably the best scene in the entire movie.
I'd give you that. I really liked Friar Tuck's scene with the that one murder.
Yeah.
Hey, it was
glorious monologue.
It was good. Like, you know what? Yeah, let's do this.
It's like this came like at the start of Act 3. This might have been a cool scene and actually would have led to an awesome finale. Mm-hmm. Though easily the only saving grace of this movie really does come down to Alan Rickman, who was apparently granted pretty much complete control over his character and has a blast with it.
True.
He's honestly really the only character who looks like he's having legitimate fun. Everyone else is sort of like in and out on the whole ordeal.
True.
Just as a whole, you can clearly tell they wanted this to be a franchise. And I think if it had a ruthless editor and didn't cast Kevin Costner, they might have been successful. But for a 2.5 hour super dark Robin Hood movie, it's not nearly worth the torture to sit through it and experience that. It's a C-.
Okay.
All right. Well, in order to make this podcast not as long as the Robin Hood movie, I'll be brief. It sucks.
Oh.
I mean, here's what I guess I can add, maybe that hasn't been said. Some of the fight scenes are okay.
You're not wrong.
No, that's fair.
That's about it. Now look. Friar Tuck's fine in the 2 scenes he's in. I don't agree that Rickman's the only one having fun. I think Slater had fun making this movie. Just no one around him had any fun, with him or watching him. But I do think he had fun filming it.
That's true.
Costner sucks so hard in this.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, now looking back, I wonder if maybe my parents saw this and this is why they hate Kevin Costner. I don't remember.
It's a worthy theory.
I don't remember them going to it, but they really have a hatred for Kevin Costner. Maybe it's this movie.
I could see it
because they couldn't believe I kept going to see The Bodyguard. They were like, "Oh, Kevin Costner stinks." That was the only thing I had ever seen him in, so I thought, all right, well, he's all right. He wasn't doing an accent in that movie, so maybe that helped. Rickman's great. I mean, duh. But we covered that in Galaxy Quest. It's a D+.
Oh.
It's really a bad movie.
Oh.
It's pretty bad.
I could go with a C- maybe if it was about 10 to 15 minutes shorter.
Like, there are moments in this
know?
movie that are really, really promising. They
Yeah.
just are so few and so very far between.
What's funny is, you say they were trying to do a franchise with this, if only it wasn't Costner. But this thing made a ton of money. If this was in the 2016 era of let's make a franchise out of everything that even makes a dime over budget, this thing would have 4 movies and Costner would be in them. I mean, look at how many Transformers we got and are still getting,
for better or for worse.
Worse.
So yeah, I'm sure they probably were trying to get a franchise, but like Batman, I believe this was the #1 movie of that summer.
Wow.
So I'm surprised there wasn't a franchise out of it. I'll say that. Maybe Costner didn't want to do it.
That
Well,
could be.
after his struggles, maybe he chose not to as a good thing.
Could be, yeah, could be. All right, well, so that is our In Memoriam tribute. Many great lives lost in 2016. Hopefully 2017 will be slightly more forgiving. But thanks for listening. Next month we have our annual Christmas Old Classic show, so you can check that out coming soon. And thanks so much for listening. We'll see you back here next time.